Leaders, market leaders, blah, blah, blah. Welcome to Hacking Business Technology, the only podcast where apparently anything could be the topics. Welcome for Mr. Kawasaki.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
How was everyone's week? Busy?
Story of our lives.
Extremely busy. And, I'm still mobile, but they insisted on moving me officially. So without a cube, I got moved.
A cube got moved. Oh, you guys are over at NDB now?
Yes.
And you're non-cube.
Well, they have a cube now for me, even though I don't plan on being there. So
it's illegal to use acronyms on this podcast without saying what they mean.
North Decatur building. So even though I went mobile and I don't have a physical space, they insisted that I have a physical space. So
as long as you're alive, Mark, you have a physical space.
Yes.
Can you imagine? It's like there's actually an element of cost savings attributed to not having a space, but they insist that you have a space.
Yes. And then there's another big room that a bunch of people were put in with, waist-high cube walls. And I heard these two guys talking about it, and one of the guys said, "I'm pretty sure that the extrovert Illuminati came up with that idea."
We should come up with a name for that. I mean, extra Illuminati. It doesn't. They just don't combine very well.
Well, and so the problem was obviously that you can't force people into a new way of working. You can't call it a collaborative space, but not teach them how to use it as a collaborative space.
Or
it's funny.
Why it's beneficial, right? I mean,
right.
I don't see the value.
They need to take a class on their new cubes. I'm sorry, but they do.
Well, and maybe, I don't know. Okay, so of course those cubes have problems. Anyone who's done any sound design in any space ever knows that those cubes are a bad idea. But, it sort of comes down to shoving stuff down people's throats.
Right,
they just don't want it. Okay, so I was at a DevOps MSP casual mixer this week where it's just a bunch of nerds get together and have cocktails and talk about their latest automation woes, apparently. But what a sales rep there, a competing sales rep was there, and he's talking about, I just need to know these guys. I need to know what their problems are so that I can try to fix them, because otherwise I'm out of a job in 6 months. And he went off and on about this project at such and such a company where they couldn't get this new way of working implemented. The leaders couldn't tell the people the new way to work. And I just looked at it like, that isn't the new way to work. The new way to work is whatever works.
Right. Yeah.
So, and in order to do that, though, I think this you just hit on something that's so key, right? I've seen so many of our clients are doing that workplace of the future stuff and all this craziness, but it's not just cubes. You need to recognize that in order to truly provide a space that can promote the outcomes you desire, you need to create your spaces that cater to these different things. So, actually, even at KPMG, they're doing this awesome Workplace of the Future initiative, and we're getting a new Ignition Center here. And long story short, what's really cool about it is they recognize that there's a me space, a we space, there's a learning space, a public space, and they're branding it that way so that people, and recognizing that some people just need a timeout. They need to be in a me environment where they can get focused and get something done. And at the same time, they need a we environment where they need to be collaborative and share ideas and do things with their coworkers. So I think it's enabling that balance, right?
Yeah, because if you don't do it that way, then everyone's just going to try to get their me space inside of a we space, and it's not collaboration, it's just talking.
Yeah.
These are social platforms of yesteryear. Stop saying MySpace. They're going to have to sponsor us.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's fit for purpose, and just do what works, and think about the virtual places too. I mean, and of course. Okay, so I'm reading this book right now, Toyota Kata. It's about learning, and it's about organizational development, and it's about trying to do what works and trying to be a manager that encourages people to do what works. I got recommended it by Bacha Galube.
Well, what I've been thinking about in terms of learning organizations is, and maybe they cover some of that in that book, I don't know, but how does an organization learn from past mistakes? It seems like every organization I've seen, tries different things, but they never refer to what didn't work before, and they never seem to learn from what didn't work before, except the people on the ground who are saying, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, we suck at retrospecting.
Yeah.
Storytelling.
Storytelling.
Being a librarian. I mean, yeah, you're right.
A librarian, I like that.
It's something that people forget. In some systems sort of replace it. Like if you're a medical firm, you can go through EMR records, or if you're a services firm, you can go and look at your projects. PMO is a great place to look for the stories of an organization. But it's not always just it's not as easy as that. It's not just data. It's like the politics and, even think about it like when a CEO gets replaced, what an effect that has on everyone's working styles. Or CEO leaves and the CFO steps in, and how does that change? Are you able to innovate as fast when you've got a leader spread thin like that? It has a massive impact, and really just hiring people that want to learn makes you.
It almost seems so that organizations want to wipe away the past. Rebranding means literally wiping away everything they did wrong before and starting new. I don't know how to counteract that.
Well, let's break down the concept of a learning organization, right? And I think you both hit on some important concepts. One, I think there's an element of what makes up a strong learning organization. Well, definitely, I would say the people, right, and how you're hiring and who you're hiring. Definitely the leadership and understanding if the leadership promotes retrospecting and promotes understanding, the role of the historian. There's value there and why that's important and how that influences or shapes your future initiatives. There's even the data piece of it, right? I mean, it's that good old model of the pyramid where we have operational, tactical, strategic, and ideally, what's happening in your operational level, that data should feed your strategy, right? And we have a cycle that comes around it. So there's different pieces that make up a learning organization, and I think you cannot truly be effective as one if you don't have multiple, you're not hitting it at multiple angles.
Oh my God, I really like that idea of the historian. Like, I would love to just call up, talk to somebody who works in an organization and say, can I please speak with your organizational historian, and see who they refer me to.
The auditors. They send you to the auditors.
Oh, that's scary and sad.
Or the internet.
The internet. Yeah, right. Well, more and more.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of times, if we're prospecting a client, that's something that we'll do. Just go to the internet. And you get a lot of story. It's funny to look in retrospect, and so there are clients that we track over large periods of time. They're large clients of ours, and they're really important to us, and so we pay attention to them. Duh. But it's really interesting when you're in one of those email threads about a specific organization, and you can actually read through the history, scroll down to 2013, scroll down to reply threads that are 2010.
Yeah. That's interesting. My son is really into archaeology, and I've been trying to talk to him about what archaeology may look like in the future, and looking at snapshots of the internet, what it looked like in 2000 versus 2010, and it's really interesting stuff, and I think valuable.
Yeah, archaeologists dig up dirt for information. So what does that mean, the information in the future?
Yeah.
And how do you so you see the explosion of data, where over time it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. How do you build systems that plan for data that is larger than you can possibly comprehend?
Mm-hmm. Another thing I wanted to mention was I'm in this online program right now for integrated social science, and they have this idea of a portfolio, and they start you off with the portfolio, but they call it a learning portfolio when you start. And then at the very end of the program, after you've taken several courses, they have you do a capstone where the portfolio that you were building in terms of documenting your learning you know, like Evernote, you're throwing everything in there that you find that is contributing to your learning. You're writing about it, and then they have a capstone course where you actually turn that into something publishable and something to kind of show what you've learned.
What is the name of this?
It's an integrated social science program at a university that I signed up for, and so I think it's a great idea to kind of use to have a portfolio of your learning. I mean, this is what we're talking about, right? Why can't an organization have that, where everyone throws everything in there that they're learning as an organization, and then periodically turn that into a statement instead of a question?
Man.
Mm.
It's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. Think about how much do you discover and put into Evernote every day? I mean, I put in at least 12 screenshots, and I'd say maybe 30 clips.
Right. Yeah, I do a lot too. Yeah. But why don't organizations do that?
What sort of discipline does it teach you? That's what I want to know. Like, are you, when you're entering in this data or whatever, how does it actually separate it, or is it just based on? So you have to focus, is what you're saying, on a specific topic for a specific period of time, and only through that can you go and say, for this topic only, I've been working in this notebook or whatever.
Well, I mean, I think people do that anyways when they work. I mean, if you're working on a specific product or a specific project, you're focused on that, and you have certain moments, certain milestones where you learn things, and that would be your save to portfolio moment, right?
So tell me more about this focus thing you're talking about.
If only, right?
I suppose it would be interesting. Like, I tweeted it this week. I want to see how other people work, and I think that's a case where, wow, that's beautiful. So, what have you published anything? That's the question.
No, not yet.
But you shall.
Not for this program, but that's the key. The point is, I'm asking that question in all areas of my life now, you know, and I'm asking it for others as well. How many moments are you losing that you should be capturing for historical purposes? I don't know. What about you, Farah? Do you see any of that happening anywhere?
I think in some spaces, I think what people are struggling with is mediums, what they should and they should not store, you know, because it can get intensive. Like, I personally struggle with that all the time, going, okay, I'll be on a roll for a really good week, and I'll be very conscious about, hey, I want to reserve this or keep this, and then I'm good, and I get myself organized, and all of a sudden I'm like in data storing historical inception, right? Like, what am I really doing? And and actually, I've been meaning to take up Matt's suggestions on something as simple as just like, forget learning, just let's look at photographs. Like, I'm sitting there, and it's the classic challenge. You've got photographs on your iPhone, on your different devices. All of a sudden, you're backing up to the iPhoto, and then there's PhotoStream, but then you have Google Plus, so now you've got them doing auto awesome photos, which is really cool, by the way. But then you've got that storage space, and then you've got like all sorts of other things that are all competing, Dropbox and Box, and
yeah. Well, and I agree with that, and I think part of what makes a difference for me is how it's laid out. I mean, one of the best things about Evernote is that, for me at least, it lays it out chronologically, and it gives me snapshots into the data, which is very different than 10, 20 years ago when it was just file systems and just file names. Because you couldn't glean any information, you couldn't look back historically in the same way that you can now with Evernote or even Box, if you have it set up that way.
Agreed, but then take that into the organizational context, right? With corporations, they're still using damn email or whatever, and so they don't get the benefit that an Evernote gets you, and this is what people, I think, struggle or grapple with, right? Mm-hmm. What is valuable for me to keep? Project managers have these lovely lesson learned documents that sit there in MS Word and just collect in some kind of, you know, collection of stuff against a project record. I mean,
right. Historical data within a file system or within email is oppressive. Within Evernote, it's not. That's key, right?
Yeah. So I saw a startup demo yesterday of this company that's taking flash hard drives and rating them to make the data incredibly fast. And they have this automatic duplication too, so you can point it at multiple data shares and like quickly say, okay, these are actually all just one drive right now, and you can borrow from this drive and that drive and that drive where you need like extra space. And I think like enabling a system where people are able to pick through it faster than a file share is essential. And you need to set up not necessarily the taxonomy of your systems, because that's a Sisyphean feat in most cases. But to encourage discipline, as simple as something like content creation. It's something simple as content creation. You have a workflow that you work through. Creation, editing, publishing, maybe it flows around that one a while, and then, you got to find it later. And I think like at each point you need to be cognizant of how this affects your company. So in the creative space, I run into this all the time. Oh, it drives me crazy sometimes. Someone will say, hey, do we have a standard image for such and such? Mm-hmm. And sure, of course we do. There's probably 72 versions of what we need for such and such, and it comes down to like where is the authoritative source of information, and are you encouraging the disciplines, behavior, and assignment of time and resources to actually getting it there? And I think a lot of people forget that good data takes good time, and that is another case to have a librarian at your company. Boom!
Yeah, I mean, that makes me think of some of the tools that Google has, like images like this one or something. If you were indexing, most of what you would want to search for in your company, you wouldn't get so lost.
And how many people actually have one of those Google appliances?
Yeah, and that's where I was going. And how many of those companies are using an Evernote or getting
anything?
Yeah.
You even see people like the shadow IT that isn't shadow IT is all these people are using OneNote now because Office just kind of comes with it. But no one ever like stopped and said, This is OneNote. This is how you should use it. Think about it. Think ahead. Here are considerations and disciplines that you need to consider when you're creating notes. It becomes a mess.
It's no different than those guys thrown into that collaborative sitting space, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. Get the team together. Shave off your most talented employees. Put them in a lab or something. Segregate them and give them tools, explore how they're using them, do pet projects, do side projects, do 3 side projects over there, and just see how people use it.
And get a librarian or a historian.
Pay them well because they're writing your history. Can you imagine going back and seeing some librarian, like you'd see the news headlines, it'd be, oh, Coca-Cola's head librarian rewrote its entire history to include misinformation, personally identifiable information.
Wow.
Totally boring. Most boring news article anyone ever wrote.
It's just a bizarre concept, though. I mean, who's writing the history of bad managers and bad organizational decisions?
Gossips.
Exactly, but it's so valuable. Right?
No, you know who's doing it now? Glassdoor is doing it now.
Yes.
Just scroll through the reviews of the company and you can see people like as they leave, they'll leave comments, leadership doesn't have a vision, and then 2 years later, people that are leaving, they say things like, leadership tried a lot of things and kind of screwed it all up.
So I ask a company, who's your organizational historian, and they just send me the URL to Glassdoor.
In which case, your company should be paying for Glassdoor then, because then you can control a lot of this stuff. You can see who's actually reading the information. You can control the information for accuracy. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's one way you can hack business technology, is to get a Glassdoor account. Thank you so much for
Very
coming,
good.
you two. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.